body to excrete or to react have long disappeared. So they go directly into chronic phases, into degenerative phases, into no immunity phases, and then you label it the way you want.
Pasamos luego a una de las principales causas, que es la toxicosis focal, o sea, los focos o campos de interferencia, que por una parte llevan a deterioro del sistema inmunológico. Ya en los días pasados lo vimos. ¿Por qué? Por la afectación del sistema básico, por bloqueos a nivel de los sistemas enzimáticos y por bloqueos a nivel del sistema mesenquímico, o sea, de la defensa inespecífica.
One of the major reasons for chronic diseases is the focal toxicosis. We were talking about it the day before yesterday, and this focal toxicosis leads to a deterioration of the immune system, a blockage of the enzyme budget and the enzyme activity, and of a blockade of the mesenchymal reactivity ability.
Finalmente, también habríamos de hablar de lo que consideramos las enzimopatías congénitas. Es decir, estos son defectos metabólicos prenatales, sobre los cuales no podremos, lógicamente no podremos curarlos porque son enfermedades irreparables, pero sí podemos suavizar y cambiar su evolución. En este caso, la terapia celular se convierte en una de las grandes alternativas. Ya hemos tenido en los años pasados al doctor Schmidt en Colombia, y se ha iniciado un trabajo con niños mongólicos viendo cómo siguen siendo mongólicos, pero definitivamente se mejora radicalmente sus condiciones y su capacidad.
Another of the causes of chronic happenings are the congenital enzyme disturbances. Those are pre-born or inherited metabolic defects. We know that in most of these cases, the label or the name of the disease cannot be changed. In this specific cases, in this specific type of children, cell therapy turns into one of the greatest alternatives, oxygen therapy. In the last couple of years, we have started in Colombia, together with Professor Schmidt, the writer, the author of the cell therapy and of the Down syndrome book. We have been treating in a protocol a good number of Down children. The Down doesn't disappear. The disturbance at the 21 chromosome doesn't disappear, but those children become a little healthier. I mean, their flus don't turn anymore into bronchopneumonia. Their IQ can be led to the IQ of a 13, 12, 14-year-old kid, and that is a hell of an advance. So you're not going to change the chromosomic disorder. The Down disease is going to be there. If you start early enough, the phase might change because the brain grows during the first 3 years. So if you start with cell therapy, with oxygen, with vitamins, and with neurotherapy, with irrigation of the brain, 1 month after they are born, they don't even have the Oriental or Mongoloid look, but they have their chromosomic disorder. But they don't remain as the normal Down children, very feeble in their whole immune ability. Those kids die like flies. If a flu epidemic goes through the province, they get bronchopneumonia with those flus. If they cut themselves, they have a huge infection. That's one of the factors that can be changed.
De todas maneras, en esto de las enfermedades crónicas, personalmente coloco a la electroacupuntura de Fall como una de las principales terapias de aplicar, ya que es la que nos permite encontrar las capas tóxicas. Acordémonos cómo Fall nos demostró que a lo largo de la vida vamos creando una toxicidad en capas, y a través de la electroacupuntura podremos ir reconociendo la capa que está encima podremos irla sacando y así a lo largo del tiempo irnos cada vez profundizando en las enfermedades más y más de atrás, logrando las mejorías o curaciones definitivas de los pacientes.
When we talk about chronic diseases, one of the realities we have learned and we had to admit to ourselves in the last 17 years is that every one of the therapeutic disciplines that we have been confronted with has its very own and very important place. If we're talking about field of disturbances and similar things, the queen is neurotherapy. But if you're talking about toxic layers due to some insecticide in some profound layers, like Vol was talking about peeling the onion, you know, and at the nucleus you have the most important toxicity. For us, from our point of view, to get hold and to be able to read and to diagnose and to give the adequate therapy, EAV is the one that helps us discover those different toxic layers that might be the appropriate ground to grow a chronic disease.
Aquí siempre en la enfermedad crónica debemos buscar el o los campos interferentes que la están manteniendo activa para a través de nuestra terapia neural eliminarlos y abrir el camino para que la terapia de FOL haga su trabajo bien hecho.
And this doesn't mean that that we have a subordination from one to the other. They all have their own hierarchy. If we are talking about chronic diseases and we have our neurotherapy, we have to eliminate the different fields of disturbance, because only the elimination of those fields of disturbance will open the path or the way so that our nosode therapy or sarcotherapy at a given moment can reach its destination.
Entonces, generalmente en nuestros consultorios tenemos una legión de pacientes en dos características. Unos, por regla general, con una sintomatología oscura, sin clínica, es decir, el tipo que ha pasado por todas partes y llega allí a ver qué podemos hacer por él.
When we talk about chronic diseases, the type of people that come to see us are that group of people that have a very obscure symptomatology. They have made their way through all the specialists, all the clinics, all the hot notches, but there is nothing to hold on. There's nothing specific, no clinic at all.
O por lo contrario, tenemos aquellos pacientes que tienen el cuadro tan bien marcado, que tienen un nombre de esos bien raros, pero simplemente que llegan porque le dijeron que no había nada que hacer.
And you have the other group, which becomes more and more common. They come with a beautifully sounding label, you know, very sophisticated, half Latin, half English, half German name for the disease, given at some hot-notch place or clinic. But they have, besides baptizing that baby, they tell them, well, but there is nothing we can do for that. So that's the two groups of people that we have to deal with when we talk chronic diseases.
Por desgracia,
Por favor,
por desgracia,
hacia atrás. The bad gear doesn't work in this one, I guess. No.
con la mano.
Ahí está.
Por desgracia, la gran mayoría del primer grupo de pacientes, o sea, los con síntomas oscuros o sin cuadro clínico, han caído en muchos consultorios bajo el nombre de psicosomáticos y vienen recargados por gran cantidad de psicofármacos que complican la terapia.
Unfortunately, this group here, the ones that have an obscure symptomatology and no clinic, they have landed because of their disgrace here in many doctors' offices, and they have been just labeled as psychosomatic patients, and then they come in with loads of packages of additional chemistry. to treat their psychosomatic disorders.
Entonces, nosotros, ante un paciente en estas condiciones, básicamente buscaríamos tres preguntas. Primero, ¿tiene el paciente un foco o un campo interferente? ¿En dónde lo tiene? ¿Está nuestro paciente cargado por toxinas? ¿Cuáles son esas toxinas que tiene? ¿Y tiene nuestro paciente una lesión orgánica? ¿En dónde la tiene?
So we ask ourselves a couple of questions. First of all, does this patient have, the chronic patient, a focus or a field of disturbance, and where and how big and how long has he been exposed to it and how intense is it? Secondly, is this patient loaded with toxins? Let's identify those toxins and let's see where those toxins are. And third, does he have an organic lesion? Is it, at which organ does he have this organic lesion?
Entonces, tratando de lograr esto, nosotros hacemos una historia clínica. Por regla general, no obstante nuestra práctica sea de medicina biológica, hacemos la clásica historia clínica de la universidad, motivo de consulta, enfermedad actual, antecedentes familiares, antecedentes personales, revisión de sistema, examen físico, etc.
In spite of running a 100% biological medical office, we are very much aligned with all the normal routine tests that are asked at any normal and conventional office. The family background, etc., the whole history, and the additional examination that we ask for.
Entonces hacemos un examen físico completo, con signos, con toda la cuestión.
We go through a complete physical.
Pasamos el paciente a un examen bioelectrónico
We go with the
de los
patient,
puntos de la electroacupuntura del folo.
the bioelectronic test that we call it, which is a small test of the patient.
Hacemos en el paciente un diagnóstico de reflexos. Entonces hacemos fotografía de iris, diagnóstico de puntos positivos a la resistencia eléctrica en oreja, y pasamos el paciente para que se le haga un diagnóstico en planta de los pies.
And just to have additional information at hand, we go through a slide of the iris and a corroboration to see if the information obtained via EAV covers itself with the eye. We do take an examination of the ear with auricular technique to see if the alpha, whatever points, are positive and cover themselves in their positive condition with what we have obtained bioelectronically or with the iris, and all the normal reflexes.
Y la somatotopia de la planta de los pies.
And we also look at the somatotropic condition of the plant of the feet.
Posteriormente se piden los exámenes de laboratorio que el paciente solicite, un hemograma, parcial de orina, materia fecal, química sanguínea, bueno, lo que sea.
Normal routine lab tests that are, maybe we don't even look at them if it's not necessary, but many patients demand that they go through this kind of lab test because that sort of contributes to their feeling more secure.
Y finalmente, si el caso lo solicita, exámenes exploratorios como ecografía, rayos X, etc.
And if the patient and the condition of the patient requires it, we go through echographic examinations, x-rays or whatever.
Con todo esto, hacemos un cuadro al cual vamos a enfrentar con una terapia.
We just summarize the whole thing, go through it, and take our decision from a therapeutic point of view to see where we want to go with that patient.
Entonces, la terapia, la primera fase de la terapia es la desinterferencia focal, es decir, de todos aquellos campos de interferencia que hayamos logrado identificar, bien sea por la clínica, bien sea por los reflejos de iris o de oreja o de planta de los pies, o bien sea por la electromedición de folo.
The first thing that we do is the elimination of all the fields of disturbance that we might have been able to localize via our clinical, our physical, via our iridology exam, if it covers with the other, via the auricular examination, because there is no way to start first with the toxicity level, because the toxicity level might be just corked because of a field of disturbance. So the first thing we have to do is uncork the field of disturbance, and then we go through the toxic examination, which is done via the dermatome.
Posteriormente pasaremos a la eliminación del bloqueo tóxico. Casi por regla general, es muy raro el paciente que en nuestro centro no se le someta primero que todo a un ayuno terapéutico.
It is very difficult to find a patient, at least in our office, who does not have to go through a therapeutic fasting program.
Los estudios realizados por Buchinger y por Lützner en Alemania han demostrado que el ayuno terapéutico es una excelente manera de limpiar la basura mesenquímica.
Dr. Buchinger and Dr. Lützner in Germany, which are maybe the two most predominant experts on fasting, have demonstrated and documented that one of the most specific, mind you, specific ways of cleaning the mesenchymal trash can is via a therapeutic fasting program.
El ayuno es supremamente simple, consiste en desde el momento en que el paciente se despierta hasta el momento en que el paciente se acuesta, cada 2 horas tomarse un vaso de jugo de frutas al 50%, o sin azúcar lógico, o de jugo de vegetales al 50%. A la hora del almuerzo y de la comida, un caldo de verduras y el resto agua. No come ninguna otra ni ninguna proteína por regla general durante 7 a 10 días.
The type of fasting that I have introduced as a routine for every patient is for 7 to 10 days during the day, from the moment he wakes up to the moment he goes to bed, every 2 hours, a big glass of the 750 cc of fruit juice, of fresh fruit, not canned, fresh fruit juice, reduced to 50%, half a percent in distilled water, and half of the glass in a juice, fresh fruit juice. And for dinner and for lunch, a vegetable bouillon or soup. And no protein and nothing else during 10 days.
No more. Concomitante, enemas, si el paciente tiene mucha toxicidad hepática, enemas intestinales de café. Si no, enemas de cocimiento de manzanilla, para garantizar la limpieza del intestino.
If we find that the patient at the physical, in our clinical analysis, in our EAV analysis, we find a very severe hepatic or liver strain, we start on a daily basis with our coffee, very strong coffee, Juan Valdez, don't forget, enemas on a daily basis. And if it's only a slight liver condition, we do the same enemas with chamomilla infusion, with chamomilla herb tea.
El resto de la eliminación de los metabolitos tóxicos lo iniciamos ya con la aplicación de los nosodes y la homeopatía que haya dado el test de Foley.
The rest of the elimination of the toxic metabolites will be determined by the sarcodes, by the nosodes, by the drainage remedies that we test, that we analyze, and cut, custom cut for that specific patient through our EAV test.
Debemos recordar de todas maneras que posterior a la desinterferencia focal, hay que analizar muy bien porque todo foco o campo de interferencia ha generado en el terreno donde estaba metabolitos tóxico-alérgicos. Por consiguiente debemos tratar de encontrarlos por electroacupuntura para eliminarlos, porque con solo la eliminación del foco no hemos logrado nada si no sacamos estos metabolitos.
Every patient that goes through the mill has to go through a panorex X-ray, even though he doesn't have any teeth anymore, even though he wears prostheses. If the patient has to go through a dental checkup and dental cleaning, extractions or whatever, surgeries for residual ostitis, etc., after that surgery, a couple of days after, when we give him time to recoup from the surgery, we do another test of the dental work via EAV, because in most cases those surgeries leave toxic allergic metabolites back that on their own have to be confronted with a nosode or with a sarcode to be eliminated.
Entonces, cuando hacemos la eliminación de estos bloqueos tóxico-alérgicos por la EAB, logramos la eliminación del bloqueo tóxico, pero para que esto se lleve a cabo es importante estimular el drenaje linfático a través de medición de los puntos de linfa en todos los meridianos de acupuntura.
You saw it in our slides yesterday and the day before yesterday that there is no way you can detox a patient, as we say, very easily. Has he gone through a detox program already? I mean, you can give him whatever you want, but if his lymphatic system is not working appropriately, you can give the best detoxification agents. He won't be able to detoxify, because who the hell is in charge of detoxifying? It's the arteriovenous system on the minor toxins and the lymphatics on the biggest. So we have to give a backup to the lymph, and thanks God, Vol gave us the lymphatic vessel or the lymphatic meridian, and we check the vessels at every one of the organs to see how the lymphatic condition is behaving.
Entonces, hay que saber que los campos de interferencia y las toxicosis producen en el organismo linfangioespasmos.
We have to bear in mind that all field of disturbance and all toxicosis, which are also field of disturbance of toxic origin and of toxic art, they produce a lymphangiospermos in the body, a congestion of the lymph, an inability of the whole lymph flow to flow at the velocity it was programmed to by nature.
Por consiguiente, si no hay drenaje linfático, aunque eliminemos las cosas, no estamos sacando estamos revolviendo la basura en la casa, pero no la estamos sacando.
And that's what happens many times, and that's one of the issues that we went through very often with Dr. Ball. We might be able to remove toxic fields of disturbance, physical fields of disturbance that are retaining trash. And we say, okay, now that is removed, but if the sewage system is not working, it is still not removed. So if we don't have an appropriate lymphatic drainage with the proper support, all the detritus coming out of our focal toxicosis, out of our fields of disturbance, are going to keep on ghosting around in the organism and settling down wherever they find a point of minor resistance. So we're just having a moving agency, as Ball baptized it very clearly. We're moving the toxins from this neighborhood to that neighborhood.
Como la gran mayoría de los focos son cefálicos, entonces podemos utilizar una estimulación mediante terapia neural de la linfa a través de la terapia neural. Entonces, por regla general, con nuestra aguja hacemos un chorrito submandibular en la región del mastoides, preauricular, en toda la región posterior, a lo largo de esto y supraclavicular, con el fin de estimular todos los canales que nos van a drenar la linfa de la cabeza.
And how do you do a very cheap and very easy lymphatic drainage of the head? And why do we start off at the head? Because 70% of all the fields of disturbances are in the cephalic area. We use these points here like this here, like this here, like this here, like this here, and subclavicular here. We just make a little, like a little sausage of procaine, of lidocaine with the needle, and that will stimulate the whole lymphatic drainage of the cephalic region.
Y ahora sí, como una manera de ejemplo, veamos cómo manejamos una sinusitis crónica.
And now that we know what we do, as a general rule with chronic condition, let's look at a chronic sinusitis.
Recordemos que tenemos dos senos maxilares, dos senos frontales, dos sistemas de células esmoidales, dos senos esfenoidales, un seno cavernoso y un seno mastoideo.
When we talk about sinus problems, we must never forget that we're not talking about one or two or a couple of players. We have two maxillary sinuses, two frontal sinuses, two systems of ethmoidal cells, two sphenoidal sinuses, one cavernous sinus, and one mastoid sinus.
Todos trabajan como unidad funcional energética.
And they, energetically speaking, they all work as a team, as an energetic unity.
Entonces miremos las correlaciones energético-etiológicas para hacer un diagnóstico de sinusitis crónica.
Let's look at the etiological energetic correlations to be able to make the diagnosis of sinusitis chronica.
Primero, sinusitis crónica debido a una monosinusitis rinógena crónica, que puede ser por desviación del septo o por bloqueo en el drenaje.
We're looking, let's say, at a monosinusitis of chronic rhinogenous origin, which might be because of a deviation of the septum, because of trauma or born like that, or because of a blockade in the drainage.
La sinusitis dentógena, de gran importancia en nuestro diagnóstico, por osteitis transmigratoria que pasa del diente al seno, por restos de raíces que se hayan quedado, por quistes dentógenos que el paciente tenga, por restos de amalgamas o amalgamas corrosionadas que estén generando problemas, o por bolsas paradentósicas.
Dentally originated sinus, maxillary sinusitis due to transmigratory osteitis, when from the upper jaws the osteitic or the inflammatory process penetrates the sinus, and the origin, apex relicta, residual of apis, dental cyst, amalgam, silver amalgam residuals, or dental pockets.
La sinusitis crónica iatrogénica, generalmente por el uso permanente de sprays vasoconstrictores, que esto se convierte en crónica precisamente por el bloqueo retóxico de la fase normal excretora, de acuerdo a la filosofía de Reffen.
This is the professional or iatrogenic sinusitis caused by the permanent use of vasoconstrictors, and that's what they prescribe when you have a stuffy nose. No? And this is what Reykjavik baptized as the retoxic sinusitis through the retoxic blockade.
Alberto, question. I often thought about the dentist using local anesthetic with vasoconstrictors in it. Have the Germans done any studies on to see how damaging that is?
Not that I would know that they have mentioned it in the meetings in the last couple of years. You know, I wouldn't be able to tell you it, but I haven't heard. There is a Dr. Gross, not Cross, the one that he was mentioning, Dr. Gross, who is starting to speak a lot about it. But now that you mentioned that, many of the kids that are mouth breathers, you know, those kids that cannot breathe through the nose, when you have to do dental work on them, it's very complicated, especially if you have to do, what do you call this specialty when you put all those irons?
Orthodontics.
Orthodontic work with them. when they have to stay with their mouth open for an hour or an hour and a half so they can get all the screws and all those metals in there. Some of the dentists are starting to use this euphorbium nasal spray, because why are they mouth breathers? Because the congestion, and why there is a congestion? Because there is an enlargement of the mucus structure which doesn't allow the air to pass through the normal air passages. So if you get a decongestion, a non-inflammatory condition of those air passages, suddenly they can breathe and they can work much easier in the mouth. We have a dentist there who, Max was telling me, he orders hundreds of those damn things every 2 months just to work on kids that are mouth openers, mouth breathers.
Good point.
Pero entonces aquí viene algo bien interesante, y es la sinusitis metabólico-energética, porque ante esa ortodoxamente nunca hay un diagnóstico. Ustedes ven que el problema es que en la sinusitis estamos muy preocupados del estreptococo, del estafilococo, del neumococo, de la bacteria, y nos hemos olvidado del terreno, y en cambio nosotros aquí a la bacteria realmente no le hemos dado importancia, porque la prueba es que un cultivo nos da una bacteria, otro cultivo nos da otra. Por consiguiente, la solución no es matar el que entra, sino mejorar las condiciones del terreno.
One of the most important conditions that we almost forget is the metabolic energetic chronic sinusitis, and it is the one that is correlated to the organs. And here comes Ball again in his relationship, frontal sinus, andro or gynecological region, etc., because we have worried, or the specialist, the ENT specialist, when you send him somebody with a sinus problem, they'll run a test and they find that there are pneumococcus or streptococcus or whatever animals he wants to chase. But the terrain itself, they don't worry about it. It is maybe if we change the pH, the condition of the terrain, those little ghosts will disappear on their own. And that's the kind of metabolic energetic case where we have to, again, correlate to all the information we have. And we know, energetically speaking, the relationship of our sinuses with the different organs.
Aquí la sinusitis está actuando como una fontanela dicariante de fases de reacción y excreción. Entonces, si una mujer está excretando su problema ginecológico a través de una sinusitis frontal y lo intenta durante años, y nosotros denle el antibiótico y denle el antiinflamatorio, bloqueando esa fase de excreción, no habremos de extrañarnos de que aparezca un mioma o un cáncer.
Let's say that a vaginal discharge of a good lady is being excreted via the frontal sinus, to put it very severely, because andro and gynecological region have their direct energetic relationship with the frontal sinuses. And it is acting, the frontal sinus is acting as a vicariation, as a fontanella, as an escape door for that gynecological disorder. Why? Because it didn't use its own exit for some reason. And we go ahead with our antibiotica, vasoconstrictors, to keep her breathing and to keep her nose shut because she has a running nose. You must not wonder if a couple of years later you find at the uterus or at the ovaries a myoma or a cancer. We toxically induced a progressive vicariation.
Entonces, en estas sinusitis metabólica energética simplemente miramos un atlas de acupuntura de los meridianos y entenderemos fácilmente la relación. El meridiano de vejiga nos pone en relación el sistema urogenital con los senos frontales.
And we just have to look at what we have all gone through all those seminars, and then we look at our meridians, our acupuncture charts, and then we see that the UB meridian puts our urogenital, andro, and or genital region in energetic contact as a two-way street, not one way, It's a two-way street. It goes from here to here and from here to here too, with our frontal sinuses.
Por otra parte, el meridiano del estómago se nos pone en contacto con los senos maxilares.
The stomach meridian is energetically interconnected with the maxillary sinuses. So you don't have to worry about the maxillary sinusitis if the guy doesn't go to the John if he only goes to the John every week. So you better find the way to deal with his stomach before you start worrying about the congestive sinuses.
El meridiano del intestino grueso nos va energéticamente a encontrar su vía de escape con las células etmoidales.
The large intestine has its two-way energetic relationship with the ethmoidal cells.
El meridiano del hígado va a tener su relación con los senos esfenoidales.
The liver meridian with the sphenoidal cells and vice versa.
Entonces, de esa manera podemos encontrar cómo sinusitis pueden estar relacionadas con problemas en órganos muy diferentes de la economía.
And that's how we find out that a sinus problem, long before we tackle it locally, we must, through the history, through our checkups, through our physical or whatever, we must find out if it is the sinus that is screaming on its own, or is it screaming on behalf of somebody else. That means on some far located organ, be it the andrological system or be it the large intestine or the whatever, or the liver.
Otra de las causas importantes es el linfangioespasmo, es decir, pacientes con patologías crónicas de las torcidas del anillo de Valdeyer no pueden drenar adecuadamente su linfa proveniente de los sistemas paranasales y por consiguiente tendrán sinusitis por falta de poder drenar.
Another popular mechanic problem that we have is that the people that have chronic pathologic problems at the Waldeyer ring here is as if there were blocked here, so the lymphatic drainage from the head cannot go through. And if it cannot go through, it has to stase itself somewhere, and it stases itself at the level of the sinuses because they got cavities there where they can, and you find some patients with a level, you just press it, there is a level of congestion of lymph.
Muchísimas veces en estos pacientes adultos encontramos grandes amígdalas como las que encontraríamos en niños.
And in this kind of patients, when you find this chronic pathologies of the Waldeyer rings, you find tonsils, huge tonsils like the ones you might find in little kids, Those tonsils are defending themselves from all the drainage that is blocked.
Finalmente, también tenemos que tener en cuenta a los pacientes inmunodeprimidos, los cuales después de sinusitis agudas generadas por cambios de clima, por problemas de cualquier índole, tienen una actividad donde los gérmenes de todas maneras son secundarios y el huésped es el primario. Entonces estos pacientes hacen sinusitis crónica porque su sistema inmunológico está deprimido. Entonces, por regla general, en los distintos cultivos siempre encontramos un bicho diferente.
Another type of sinusitis chronica patient that we find are all those patients that are under immune suppression. Those patients, you will find that after acute sinusitis, they always find, if you make antibiogramma, you will find every time a different little animal. Because what counts here is that the germs are of secondary nature. The host is the primary nature. Thank you. So every time you run an antibiogramma, you'll find strep in one, staph in the next one, and it varies every time, and then you replace your medications every time, and your liver just goes crazy.
Entonces, ahora que ya hemos visto la multivariedad de razones etiológico-energéticas de la sinusitis, miremos qué podemos hacer terapéuticamente.
Now that we have seen the multiple etiology of a sinusitis chronica, let's look at some therapeutic consideration that we might have.
En las monosinusitis rinógenas crónicas, lógicamente, las mandamos al cirujano para que enderece ese septum desviado.
If we have a chronic rhinogenous monosinusitis, the best thing is to get a good mechanical act done to straighten out the septum. So we send them to the surgeon.
En estos casos, por regla general, preparamos al paciente antes de mandarlo al cirujano. Por regla general, buscamos un cirujano que siga siendo cirujano, pero que al menos respete el concepto biológico. Hacemos una terapia secretolítica de limpieza con lufa operculata in gel o in gel forte, Kalium muriaticum in gel o in gel forte, cabro vespa e hidrastis. Hacemos chequeo. Si no tenemos el dermatrom, podemos utilizar el reflejo bioquinético que nos ha enseñado Phil. Simplemente cogemos la ampolleta en la mano, chequeamos y la ampolleta que le dé resistencia, esa le sirve al paciente.
When we have to decide ourselves for the surgery, we definitely do two things. We prepare the patient specifically with the cocktails that we were mentioning the first day. We look for a surgeon who keeps on being a decent surgeon in spite of having respect for our way of looking at things. And specifically, we prepare the patient then with lufa operculata in gel, Kalium muriaticum in gel, cabro vespa in gel, hydrastis in gel, and we use the made in Colombia Dermatron for that. If we don't have the German Dermatron, which is the myokinetic reflex, as Bill was saying, we ask the patient to take the vial of lufa operculata in his hand, and you test the reflex, and you take the next ampule and the next one, and then you take the 4 of them, and you see if the bite is sufficient, and that's the test we make.
Lo importante de esto es la limpieza por mejoría en las secreciones.
And this is a sort of cleansing because you are improving the secretion of that area. And those medicaments that you just saw here on top have all a biological property of stimulating secretion of mucus structures, especially the lufa and the vespa cabros.
Esta terapia secretolítica la acompañamos de una terapia antiomotóxica específica con Euphorbium compositum, ampollas o gotas, el Euphorbium compositum en gotas, en spray nasal, el linfomiosol para acelerar el drenaje linfático, el nasogel para hacer menos molesto, menos congestivo para el paciente el drenaje, y el Traumel para preparar el terreno hacia la cirugía y para regenerar los grupos sulfidrilos.
On top of it, we want to cover the patient the best we can because he's going to go through a hell of an aggression, surgical, chemical, etc. We give him Euphorbium compositum in ampules or in drops. That can go together with the cocktail we said before, and we add it to it. The nasal spray that we were just mentioning before with Ed, which is Euphorbium. Then lymphomiostat is already in the cocktail, and if you want to stimulate the lymphatic drainage, which is very important, we use Nasoheal in drops. This is also oriented towards the mucosa of the nose, and Traumel, which is already in the cocktail, to prepare the patient for the type of trauma and injury he's going to be going through.
En la sinusitis crónica dentógena, obligatoriamente va para el odontólogo, evaluación exhaustiva de dientes, se hace la radiografía Panorex para mirar todo lo que pasa. saneamiento quirúrgico odontológico en las osteitis y en los quistes, exodoncia en los dientes que tengan foco, eliminación quirúrgica de patologías orales interferentes.
If we're dealing with the endogenous sinusitis, we do clear it with our local dentist, and to do the dental cleaning of osteitis, of cysts, or whatever residuals we might find from that point of view, and that are rechecked and tested via the Dermatron. The extraction of those teeth that are considered focalized and that are contributing to this pathology, and the surgical elimination of whatever oral pathologies the dentist, together with us and with the energetic test, might consider.
Los bioterápicos de base que podemos utilizar en estas patologías dentógenas son el Pyrogenium in gel, porque casi siempre tenemos el fondo infeccioso, el Synfitum, que nos va a ayudar a la cicatrización de esa cirugía, el Mercurius solubilis y el Mercurius billudatus in gel como preventivos, como efecto biológico antibiótico para evitar cualquier bacteria que nos complique la vida, el Calium muriaticum como secreto lítico y el sulfur para reactivar todo el sistema de defensas del paciente.
The biotherapeutics that we use as a base if we're dealing with an endogenous problem are Pyrogenium in gel, Pyrogenium as a general, as a mixture of fish pyrogenium, pork and meat and avis, the Synfitum in gel, to promote the formation of scar tissue as soon as the surgery is done, Mercurius solubilis and Mercurius billudatus in gel to act, Billudatus solubilis. This is mercury, it's biiodine mercury. And the Mercurius solubilis, they act as a sort of an antibiotic buffer in this case. The Calium, el Calium, ¿qué funciones que tiene?
El Calium tiene el Synfitum, cicatrización de tejidos óseos, Calium, cicatrización de mucosas.
Yeah. The Synfitum, as I said before, was the to the scar formation, the formation of new tissue, and the Calium muriaticum to the formation of new osseous tissue, and the sulfur as an overall coverage in preventive for any kind of infection that might occur after or the dental surgery.
En la iatrogénica, o sea, en la de uso de estos spray nasales, generalmente, si la enfermedad lleva más de 2 o 3 años, no solamente hay una enfermedad de la mucosa, sino que hay una enfermedad del hueso. Casi siempre hay una osteosinusitis, como el que le da a los que usan cocaína. Entonces hay una impregnación tóxica, por una parte, y una impregnación bacteriana, por otra parte. Por lo tanto, aquí la meta terapéutica será buscar mejorar la secreción y la derivación. Entonces podremos utilizar de los remedios ya nombrados.
When we talk about an iatrogenic sinusitis, we're not only talking about a disease of the mucous structure of the nose itself, but we already have a damage of the bone structure. That happens with the people that use those vasoconstrictors, and also with the guys that use the one that we export from over there. You have a bone damage here. So what is the therapeutic goal that we are looking for? Because we are in front of an toxic impregnation, be it of the vasoconstrictor or of the cocaine, and we have a bacterial impregnation. Why? Because the mucous structure is gone, it's fully gone. So what is the purpose and the therapeutic goal that we're looking for? To improve secretion, which cannot flow because that river bed, which is the mucous structure, is gone, and or to derivate somehow to improve finally the secretion of the nose.
Cuando estamos al frente de las patologías metabólico-energéticas, entonces nuestro enfoque debe ser primero que todo a evaluar el circuito. Acordémonos que aquí tenemos seno frontal, seno esfenoidal, seno maxilar, seno esmoidal, es decir, en cada uno de los circuitos tenemos un seno. Entonces, primero evaluamos el circuito y vemos, si por ejemplo tenemos una sinusitis frontal, vemos qué pasa con riñón, qué pasa con los dientes, qué pasa con las suprarrenales, qué pasa con el oído, con la epífisis, con el útero o la próstata, con la vejiga, buscando si allí, en ese circuito, está el daño. Si en este circuito no está el daño, entonces buscaríamos en el circuito que tiene dominancia o en el circuito que tiene generación, a ver si es uno de los órganos que le da energía, que le domina la energía o le da la energía en donde está el problema.
When we are talking about a metabolic energetic sinus problem, then we work with our circuits. Let's say we know that in every one of the 5 circuits we have one system of sinuses or of cells. Let's say here at the kidney circuit we have the frontal sinus. So we looked at if at the kidney level, or at the UV level, or at the prostate of the uterus, or in the middle ear, in the inner ear, in the adrenals, in the wisdom teeth, if there is anything wrong there, if we don't find anything in this circuit, we look at the dominant circuit, the one that sends its energy towards the other, which is this one here. Look at all the systems here, if they are causing the sinus here, or the generating circuit, which is the lung here, to see that's the one that's sending the sinusiding information to our circuit. So we work very much with this energetic circuit. And with all the relationships that we have learned from Kramer and from Ball.
De esta manera, entonces, buscaremos el campo interferente en el circuito o el campo interferente fuera del circuito. Más adelante vamos a ver cómo a través de la medición de Fall nosotros podemos ubicar exactamente si la vía va hacia los senos o de los senos hacia acá, es decir, en qué sentido está ocurriendo.
And one of the things that is forgotten many times is that those pathways or relationships between sinuses, for example, and organs is not a one-way condition. It is a highway. Energy goes and energy comes. And via the way we use, which is the evolved measurement, we can find out at a given moment if it is being shot from the sinuses to the prostate or from the prostate to the sinuses.
Entonces, en la sinusitis frontal, que tiene relación urogenital, buscaremos el cistopielonefritis in gel y el sinusitis in gel como nosodes.
Let's say we are finding from the metabolic energetic conditions a frontal sinus condition. We would say this is an urogenital sinusitis, and then the choice would be, and you test it with your arm thermotron or with whatever testing device you use, the choice would be, let's know those cystopyelonephritis in Yale and sinusitis in Yale forte, or you test the normal one and you don't need to go to the forte, which is the one that starts at lower levels or lower dilution.
Los bioterápicos para acompañar esto serán el juniperus, el cantharis, el clematis, el solidago o la rubia.
The biotherapeutics that we use if we have a urogenital sinusitis, we already said about the nosodes. The biotherapeutic drainage and accompanying remedies that we use from a homeopathic point of view is juniperus, cantharis, clematis, solidago, and rubia tinctorum.
Los antiomotóxicos en estas sinusitis frontogenitales serán el Euphorbium compositum, el Ovarium compositum en las mujeres o Testis compositum en los hombres, el Cantaris compositum si necesito además proteger los riñones, y el Traumen si hay un proceso grande de base.
Now we have the nosodes. If we have the nosodes, we have the isotherapeutic, the equalia equalibus therapy. We already talked about the biotherapeutics, and now we have the anti-homotoxic for the toxic condition that is created or originated there, and we have the euphorbium compositum, the ovarium, because of the relationship, if it is a female patient, or testis, if it is a male patient. Cantharis compositum, if we want to protect additionally also the kidneys, and the Traumel as a disinflammatory agent.
Okay. It's 6 o'clock now. We're going to go for another half hour, and you've got about an hour worth of slides. Got about 40 more. So
No, we're gonna
okay.
round it up.
So I want them to give you everything they came with presented. So we don't leave anything out.
La terapia neural, digámoslo muy rápido. La terapia neural, triángulo de base de la nariz, esferopalatino, polos amigdalares, Frankenhäuser o próstata y revisión del circuito.
From a neurotherapeutic point of view, the magic triangle of the Chinese, but not with Chinese needle, with a couple of drops of protein. The sphenopalatine ganglion, or pterygopalatine ganglion, that we saw before. The tonsil holes, the Frankenhäuser plexus, or prostate if it is a male patient, and a revision of the whole circuit the way we have it on the chart to see if we're missing something, and maybe we might have a sniper hidden somewhere.
Si el caso es una prostatitis, entonces la terapia neural será intraprostática, polos amigdalares, abdomen inferior, sacro y el nosode de sinusitis.
If we're dealing with the fact that a prostatitis is the one that is shooting its sinusiding energy towards the maxillaries, the frontal sinuses, then we use, from a point of view of neural therapy, the intraprostatic injection, which can be done suprapubic, or the other technique. We use the tonsil beds, the segment injection on the lower abdominal, and this head zones of L5, which reflect to the genitourinary region, and the nosodes that would be indicated here would be the sinusitis in Yale. Forte.
Los antiehomotóxicos en prostatitis, los principales, belladona, sobre todo si el caso está agudo, Sabal para evitar la congestión de la próstata, y el Hormel para regular la función hormonal.
If we're talking about that prostatitis that is shooting its information upwards, the anti-homotoxic approach that we take is with belladonna Humacort if we are in an acute condition. We use Sabal Humacort to avoid, and I have told you that Sabal has a specific biological preference for the prostate. Sabal Humacort to avoid an enlargement, a hyperplasia of the prostate, and Hormel to help reestablish the hormonal equilibrium or budget.
En adenoma de próstata, o sea, si ya lo que tenemos es una próstata grande, no aguda, pero molestando hacia arriba, probamos con Conium, con Ferrum Picricum, con Digitalis, con Pareira Brava, con Magnesium Muriaticum o con Populus Tremuloides, haciéndole el test a cada uno.
Y eso lo podemos poner con la sangre como queramos.
Claro.
Y intraprostático. When we talk about, now the condition is a little worse, we're talking about adenoma prostate. In that case, we use the following biotherapeutics. And here again, since this is a user-friendly approach, it is the user who will decide how you want to use it. You can use all these medications, Conium in Yale, Ferrum Picrinicum, Digitalis in Yale, Pareira Brava, Magnesium Muriaticum, Populus Tremuloides. You can use them as a cocktail altogether. You can use the first one as a base, or you take Sabal Humacort as base, and the next one as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, step-by-step autosandwich therapy. And why Sabal Homacort as base? Because Sabal has a biological preference for the prostate. You can use them intraprostatic too if you're using neural therapy and you go into the gland directly.
Los antiehomotóxicos, entonces, en la adenoma de próstata, el Sábalo-Omacor y la Nux vomica Omacor. ¿Por qué? Porque las congestiones o las molestias digestivas producen presión sobre la próstata, agravando el drenaje venoso y linfático de la próstata y poniéndola peor.
Here again, we can say the same that we said before. We're talking about the adenoma prostate. The anti-homotoxic approach is Sabal Homacort, which is the medication for the prostate. Why do we come up here with Nux vomica Homacort? Because any kind of weight, abdominal or stomach, abdominal weight, will exercise an extra weight on an enlarged prostate and makes the situation even worse. So that's why, digestively speaking, the Nux vomica will give us a hand to not have more pressure from the point of view of weight on an enlarged prostate. The others, Populus compositum, Berberis Homacort, Gallium Hill, Ruro Hill, Arsuranil, you have heard some of those names. Use them the way you know how to use them, and if you can use them with blood, the better for the patient.
Los organoespecíficos, principalmente próstata suis, vesica urinarius suis, los principales. Y si el test nos dice que ureter suis y ren suis, pues también va.
And let's follow the same steps that we were following yesterday when we were talking about the blood. When we were talking about an adenoma prostate, is because there is a deformation, and when we talk deformation, we're talking degeneration. And when we're talking degeneration, there is something there to be repaired. And then there is something to be repaired, we have to think organotherapeutically. Cell, micro or mini cell therapeutically, and then the organospecific remedies of choice would be prostata suis in Yale, vesica urinaria suis in Yale, ureter suis in Yale, or ren or kidney suis in Yale.
Con respecto a la sinusitis que relaciona sinusitis maxilar con estómago, la terapia neural será abdomen superior, el Vogler, la fosa epigástrica y el troncal simpático.
When we're talking about the maxillary sinus problems that have an energetic metabolic relationship with the stomach, the neural therapy of choice would be the upper abdominal segment, wheel therapy. And you choose where you make the wheels. The epigastric fossa, the Vogler points at the tip of the last rib, just in the middle, going down from the mamilla in a direct line. You palpate those points and they are normally painful. And the abdominal trunk line with the long nail in the back bilaterally.
Los nosodes para emplear en esta serían el sinusitis in gel, el linfangitis, porque generalmente aquí hay un bloqueo a nivel del sistema linfático, y el bilirrubin para poner a funcionar cualquier problema de bloqueo por este lado.
The nosotherapy, that is the therapy on the right side of the biological cut, would be sinusitis in Yale, lymphangitis in Yale, or bilirubin in Yale.
Los bioterápicos para acompañamiento, Nux vomica, Artemisa, Silicea y Sincurin gel. Recordemos que podemos testar y saber si es uno o dos o tres o todos o ninguno.
Nux vomica, stomach, and here again you can use your dermatron or your myokinetic reflexes, the ones you want to test. If you take this one first or this one second, or all of them in one shot, or you put them in auto-sanguine step-by-step therapy, but this is the choice, and this is no Bible, this is no dogma. You can add whatever you find that contributes to the minimum optimum for the patient.
La terapia neural en la sinusitis etmoidal con relación al intestino grueso, segmento en abdomen inferior, punto de McBurney y terapia paravertebral dorsal, lumbar y sacral.
Ethmoidal sinuses, correlation bioenergetic with the large intestine, neurotherapy of choice, abdominal segment, all of it should look like a store where they sell buttons, you know, all over. It's all depth charges. Every well-located wheel is like a depth charge. The McBurney points and the paravertebral points, so that you're interested in every one of the associated points.
Los nosodes, sinusitis in gel, apendicitis in gel, colesterin in gel y Sutoxol in gel.
The nosotherapy to be used combined or alone, depending on what you test or what you feel or what you have in your intuition. Sinusitis in gel, appendicitis, cholesterinum in gel, and Sutoxol. These are the toxins from pork meat eating.
Los antihomossóficos específicos, Traumel, Nasogel, grafitis o macor si hay estreñimiento.
The anti-homotoxic approach, just to round it up at all, Traumel and Nasoheal, and if you have if your bowel movement has not been regular, or the patient's bowel movement has not been regular, and you have a lot of constipation, Grafitis Homacor would be the leading anti-homotoxic agent to send with.
Aquí también es muy importante, acordémonos de la función del intestino grueso, la toxicidad del intestino grueso dañándonos todos los sistemas. Por consiguiente, es muy importante reactivar los sistemas enzimáticos con coenzime compositum, ubiquinone compositum, mucosa compositum, tiroidea compositum. Si ya hay un proceso degenerativo en el organismo, los catalizadores del ciclo de Krebs y mucosa nasalis suis en acompañamiento.
And let's emphasize this here, when we're talking about ethmoidal cells or sinuses and their relationship with the large intestine, remember the volume of toxicity that we can obtain via an auto-intoxication of the large intestine. That is going to ruin all our pH. So we have, anti-homotoxically speaking, we have to send, the messenger system has to be normalized, or at least strengthened, sending coenzyme. The ubiquinone to accelerate the oxygenal utilization on behalf of the cell. Mucosa compositum, because the type of degeneration that we might get in via large intestine toxins migrating might ruin the whole mucous structure. Thyroidea compositum, if we already have a clear-cut degenerative condition, we use the whole box of the catalyst of the Krebs cycle and mucosa nasalis suis in gel.
La terapia neural en la patología ya debida al linfangioespasmo serán los polos amigdalares, el barrido linfático total de cabeza, los espacios retromolares, la procaína en la mastoides y la procaína endovenosa.
The neurotherapy of choice would be, in this case, the tonsil poles. If you want to maximize it, you can do it with the lymphomyostat. The lymphatic sweeping, as we saw it in one of the slides, this way, just to get all the head draining the congested lymph. The retromolar spaces, be they or be they not edentulous, the mastoid processes, and the 1 cc of procaine IV and para-V. Why the para-V? Because with the para-V, we're going to interest the intima and the adventitia. We're going to send that repolarizing effect all the way up to this quadrant.
En el linfangiospasmo, buscar nosodes, particularmente sinusitis, tuberculinum, y aquí sí buscamos los específicos de las bacterias que han estado años y años molestando, como Streptococo hemolítico, Staphylococcus, Diphtherinum, Lysinum y Pyrogenium.
This is the type when we are confronted with lymphatic or lymph angiosperms, we can confront the body from a point of view of nosodes in an autohemo or autosanguis step-by-step therapy with the agents that provoked or settled down in that proper terrain, and we look for Streptococcus hemolyticus, Staphylococcus, Diphtherinum, Lysinum, Pyrogenium, the appropriate ground where they grow is Tuberculinum, and the Sinusitis. You can take any one here as a base, let's say Traumel, or let's say Nasoheal, and then you take 1, 2, 3, and 4 steps, or the way you want to divide them, and do your succussion, and go ahead, and don't give them, because they're all nosodes, don't go with any of them except for the 4th or the 5th step intravenously. Hmm?
¿Qué es? No sé, diphtheria.
It's the diphtheria nosode. Yeah, it's DPF.
Los bioterápicos aquí serían Mercurius cyanatus, Mercurius dillodatus por su efecto antibactericida, la echinacea por su efecto antibiótico, la fitolaca para ayudar al drenaje linfático, el fósforo por su acción específica antiinflamatoria y el barium y la bacticia para recuperación rápida.
For this same condition, the biotherapeutics that we would use would be Mercurius cyanatus and Mercurius biodatus, the 2 mercuries, the fitolaca to help the lymphatic drainage, the Echinacea angustifolia to contribute with the homeopathic antibiotic effect of Echinacea, phosphorus to help the whole drainage itself, and barium carbonicum and bacteria to increase all the levels of energy.
Los antiemotóxicos, Traumel, Mercurius gel, si hay pus, Angin gel, si hay un proceso francamente inflamatorio, Linfomiosol siempre, Dulcamara, si las amígdalas son grandes y hay sensibilidad a los cambios de frío, y Sorinum compositum, si es una persona con un fondo constitucional alérgico.
From an anti-homotoxic point of view, Traumel doesn't need any explanation. Mercurius gel, if we already have a purulent or pus condition. Angin gel, if we have an enlargement, a substantial enlargement of the terrain already. Lymphomycin to stimulate the lymphatic drainage. Dulcamara homocort, if that person who is going through this lymph spasmodic condition is very susceptible to changes of climate, of air, and Sorinum compositum to back up the miasmatic condition of that specific patient.
Los pacientes con inmunodepresión, entonces necesitamos hacerle una estimulación inmunológica. Cutivacuna de Padul Novum, sueroterapia con vitamina C, autohemovacunas, macroelementos, oligoelementos, oxiveroclisis y terapia hematógena de oxidación.
The last group that we saw before were those patients that are already under an immune depressive condition. Those patients, we have to rattle their cages because they are under a paralysis of regulation. In those patients, we have to act with the Cuti vaccine, and Paul Novum, as Hopper explained last year, that is a tuberculinum vaccine that you just scratch on the skin to provoke the body and to call upon the antibody reaction. IV therapy with vitamin C to fill the cells of the battery, which when you have this problem is normally almost empty. The auto hemo vaccinations, take blood, shake it, mix it with whatever remedies you consider the most appropriate, and give them intramuscular, subcutaneous. Macro elements and oligo elements,
Magnesio.
in this case, magnesium specifically. The oxyvenoclesis is the type of oxygen, endovenous oxygen that we use, 40 cc per day for a whole month, from Monday to Friday, resting Saturday and Sunday. And HOT or THO is the exposure of 50 to 100 cc of blood to ultraviolet light to energize it and to give it back to the patient. You can act here with ozone, the auto hemo, O3, infusion of blood, fasting.
En estos pacientes hacemos una terapia total, cráneo, mastoides, esfenopalatino, gáser, estrellado, polos amigdalares o procaína intravenosa. Habrá que escoger la
In these patients, the choice, neurotherapeutically speaking, and not all in one session, the choice that you have is the cranials, mastoid process, sphenopalatine ganglion or pterygopalatine, the semilunar ganglia of Gasseri, stellatum ganglion, tonsil, and procaine IV and paravenous.
Entonces de aquí nos queda que realmente las sinusitis crónicas que son quirúrgicas serían los quistes de retención, los tumores y las poliposis extensas.
From this we can deduce that the only sinusitis that still remain there would be the retention cysts that we might find there, tumors, or profuse polyp formations.
Según los 200 pacientes estudiados en Baden-Baden de sinusitis crónicas, 81 eran rayo X negativos, o sea el 40%. 142 eran asintomáticos, o sea el 72%. 61 ya habían sido operados, o sea el 30%. Y 119 tenían rayos X positivos, o sea el 60%.
According to the study carried out in Baden-Baden by one of the physicians, in 200 patients, 81% of them were negative to X-rays or X-ray negatives. 142 were without any symptoms, that's 72%. 61% had gone through previous surgeries for the same reason, 30%, and 190 were X-ray positive, that is 60% of them.
Desde el punto de vista rápidamente diagnóstico. Métodos diagnósticos, radiografía, historia clínica, iridoscopia y FOL.
As we said before, diagnostic tools we use, X-rays, history, iridology, and VOL.
Debe haber rayos X odontológicos, maxilomandibulares, occipitomentonianos y occipito-nasales. Pueden dar una buena evidencia de la patología.
The whole X-ray set of them might contribute very substantially to clear and define the situation, not only of the teeth, but also of the maxillary sinus and the occipital region.
A la historia clínica pueden haber datos poco característicos, o sea, habíamos visto que el 72% de los pacientes de Baden-Baden no tenían síntomas, pero buscar respiración difícil, alguna forma de rinorrea mucosa, dolores ocasionales en los senos y una semiología de foco ya en el caso de que busquemos por fuera en el circuito.
When you're going through your anamnesis in this kind of patients, they might provide you with information that is very little characteristic, but there are some grounds, some very important facts that you should look for is very difficult breathing or difficult breathing, mucus rhinorrhea, occasional pains, and the focus might give you a semiological answer.
En iris, simplemente miren con una lupa que tenga más o menos un buen aumento. El 50% de la sinusitis puede estar positivo. Buscar en toda esta zona, desde la pupila hasta el borde, entre la 1 y las 2 y entre las 10 y las 11. El iris normalmente debe verse como los radios de una bicicleta. Si ven oscurecimientos o huequitos con pérdida de color o aumento del color o pigmentaciones, es síntoma de problemas en la sinusitis de un lado o del otro.
Just for your information very fast, if we're talking about the iris, on the right side between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, and on the left side between 10 and 11 o'clock, you might find 50% of those signs might be positive for sinus congestion on one side or on the other. You look for little pigmentation there, dark spots, lake formation, and different types of pigmentations on one or the other side.
En estos casos como hacemos fotografía previa, al mes o mes y medio que ya hemos controlado todo el problema, uno fotografía y observa que la pérdida de sustancia ha desaparecido y el iris se ha normalizado.
We have a couple of hundred of cases where we have confronted the initial slide of the iris after a month or a month and a half, when we have attacked the patient with all the disciplines that he needed, and we see how the substance is slowly coming back, already observable in a slide.
De todas maneras, el iris es activo, él está cambiando de acuerdo a lo que ocurre adentro.
And we must not forget that the iris itself remains active. It keeps on changing according to the changes that we might have in our interior.
Buscamos la medición específicamente del punto 3 de medición del drenaje linfático de la nariz y los senos paranasales de Fall.
From an EAV point of view, the lymph 3 is the one that gives us information on the lymphatic drainage of the nose and of the paranasal sinuses.
Y buscamos también los puntos asociados vejiga 2 para seno frontal, intestino grueso 2 para las células etmoidales y estómago 5 para el seno maxilar.
Just the associated or correlated points are for the frontal sinuses, UV2 for the ethmoidal cells, the large intestine 2, for the maxillary sinuses, stomach 5.
Y aquí ocurre algo muy interesante. Valores altos indican irritación de las mucosas. Valores bajos con caída de la aguja son procesos crónico-degenerativos de tipo pólipos, tumores o osteosinusitis.
And what we have found is that high readings in these points are irritations of the mucous membranes in those areas. Low readings with indicator drops have shown every time chronic degenerative processes, polyp formations or tumors, or osteosinusitis.
Entonces, como hay relaciones metabólicas energéticas, hacemos lo siguiente: equilibramos intestino, vesícula, hígado, páncreas, estómago, riñón o vejiga, es decir, el que esté dañado allí, y miramos si en el punto 3 se equilibraron los senos paranasales. Si eso ocurre, indica que era el órgano exhaustando por arriba.
If we want to make a differential diagnosis or differential therapeutics, it is very easy to go ahead. We balance out, be it with medication or be it with low frequency impulses, be it the intestine, the gallbladder, the kidney, the pancreas, the stomach, and if we see that any one of the sinuses balances itself out in its reading, we know that from a metabolic energetic point of view, it was the organ, the one that was shooting perverse information towards the sinus and not vice versa.
Si las relaciones metabólico-energéticas están equilibradas y el punto linfático 3 sigue enfermo, es una toxicosis focal en senos paranasales.
If we have all these metabolic energetic relationships of the organs are balanced out and lymph 3 keeps on being pathologic. The organs don't have anything to do with that specific sinus problem. We have a focal toxicosis at the level of the paranasal sinuses, and that serves as differential diagnosis and checkup of our own work.
Entonces, en ese caso, hacemos lo contrario. Quitamos las ampolletas que hay, equilibramos con nosodes y bioterápicos de sinusitis y chequeamos riñón, próstata, útero, anexos, ductos deferentes, corazón, degeneración articular, etc. Entonces vemos que estos órganos se equilibran con la toxitosis de sinusitis.
And we can make the same game the other way around. If we check those organs out again, and we test them or we confront them electronically or energetically with the nosodes of sinusitis, for example. And if they balance out, because you might have a prostate that balances out with the sinusitis nosodes, that means that it is not the frontal sinus that is shooting, and that means that it is not the prostate that is shooting towards the frontal sinus, but the frontal sinus towards the prostatic problem.
Entonces, finalmente, uno de los efectos a nivel de laboratorio que podemos encontrar de la sinusitis crónica o de este problema es alta sedimentación, alta creatinina, baja hemoglobina y beta-globulinas bajas. O sea, cuando hay un foco.
When we have a focus acting in producing or cooperating with the chronic sinusitis, from a point of view of a lab test, we have a high sedimentation, high creatinine, low hemoglobin, and very low beta globulins.
Y entonces vemos una forma de mirar una simple enfermedad de una manera mucho más integral, mucho más biológica y posiblemente con terapia de éxito. Gracias.
And in this case, we can have the chance of looking at one single pathologic problem, the sinus problem, from all kinds of angles with a differential diagnosis possibility and tackling it absolutely biologically and being able to recheck if this standards, lab test standards have improved, and they have improved, we have contributed to the health of the patient without any kind of retoxicity. Thank you very much.
That ends today, and it also has to.
You want John to speak.
I know, I'm gonna. All right, well, I didn't forget. Okay. That, by the way, is the bill that made Milwaukee famous. Okay. John, we would like you to come on up and relate to what happened this afternoon. I don't know, I don't think you've told anyone, but, whatever changes you might have experienced.
I really hate to come up here because I have got nothing to say. I haven't really had any changes at all, which I noticed. Hopefully, possibly tonight, maybe tomorrow morning, I might have something more positive.
Okay.
Did you go on the drive?
I did, yeah.
Did you have chest pain?
Yeah, I still have.
Okay. Thank you, John. Well, no, that's reality, right? So, here again, room 350, hospitality room, tomorrow morning at 8:30 again. Have a good evening, and that's it. We don't have anything planned other than that, but come on up and enjoy our fellowship. We're gonna go probably